Welcome to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We are telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. KC Cares is the intersection of the profit and nonprofit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. This KC Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. Let's face it, times have been tough the past few years, and what's happened in our communities, in our country, and the world has taken its toll, especially on young people. And we're talking from ages 5 to 30. We've been so harried that many of us have lost short sight of taking care of ourselves, finding wellness. Our guest today is focused on making generational lifestyle changes that enable a whole person health approach. And she's doing it through the nonprofit Big Shifts Foundation. She's a chiropractor, a teacher, an author, a holistic healer, and much more. We welcome to KC Cares Dr. Michelle Robin. It's so great to have you.
Ruth, it's great to be with you today on KC Cares. Thanks for having me.
We've encountered each other in different places and different spaces, but I don't think we've ever had an opportunity to really sit down and talk about the work that you do. Will you share with our audience a little bit about yourself and where you're coming from? And then we'll shift over, excuse the pun, to the Big Shift Foundation.
Well, great. Well, for me, it's a very personal story. Grew up like many people, with a little bit of drama and trauma. At the age of 15, I got hurt playing basketball in a small town, Parsons, Kansas. And my mother took me to the hospital. Nothing was broken. And then she took me to the chiropractor. Ruth, I don't remember much about the chiropractic experience, except how they made me feel. And they started pouring hope and healing into me. Bad news, good news, small town. They knew a lot about my family story. And so not only did they help me get my pelvis realigned, they also really started to help me think about myself differently and started pouring hope, like I said, into me. And so for me, what I do is really a calling. I feel like it's exactly what was designed for me to do in this lifetime. And so the Big Shifts Foundation is a natural evolution of my journey.
Tell us about Big Shifts.
Yeah. Big Shifts came about over the last few years. And so many people wonder, how do you start a not-for-profit? Well, I was fortunate enough to be around people like Fred Pryor and Charles Garney and Laura Welch, and they have a passion for well-being. And back in the early, I want to say it was probably about, I'm dating myself here, maybe 2012, 2013, they started a not-for-profit called Journey into Wellness and wanted to help people live more well. And unfortunately, that foundation did not survive in an effort. And so they asked me one year because I was a supporter and an encourager of that message. And they said, would you like our 501(c)(3)? Unfortunately, it didn't come with a ton of money. However, it came with no money. But I said yes. And I wasn't quite sure why. And my accountant kept saying, are we going to keep this not-for-profit alive? So about 4 years later, we started the Big Shifts Foundation. My teaching platform is called Small Changes, Big Shifts. It's where I host a podcast, as well as have corporate clients do some online programming and try to really share the message of that really truly small changes in your well-being can shift your whole life, just like it has in mine. And this is how I live my life. So that's kind of how it came about. And I'm super excited about the work we're doing and the board we put together. And some of the pandemic has helped us really kind of hone in on some of our projects.
Isn't it great that there's some pandemic positive?
Yeah, well, for me, I feel like there's been lots of pandemic positive. Yes, there's the negative side. Of course, I'm a little bit of a Pollyanna. I look at the world half full, not half empty. I'm grateful for that natural disposition.
So you almost inherited a 501(c)(3). Part of that reassign, part of the leap that some people go through, and it's a little maddening because, let's face it, the government doesn't always make it easy to complete forms and tasks that are necessary to attain that. Can you share with us a little bit building from there? Here you have a whole wellness business, you speak. So how did you manage all that? How did you do that?
Doing is an interesting word. I think first part is trying to be the person that you want to be and be an example for what you're trying to create in your community. So I really, the word do kind of gives me a little bit of cringe, but the word being has helped. And so it's just taking the next step. So people listening today, whether it's starting a not-for-profit or whether it's starting a business or whether it's starting your own wellness journey, it's what is the next step you can take on your journey. And for me, it's a journey. I got fortunate. Once again, I got handed the back end, but it's a lot of work by the time you do the bylaws and you run board meetings. And I'm kind of up at the pie in the sky visionary. And so the good news, I have people surrounded around me that know about governance and board development and how to run a board. And I have a wonderful board that has stepped up, especially a lot of younger people in that community, and not quite in the generation. They're probably, that 30, our board really comprises of about 30 to 60-year-olds, and we're trying to be under 45 in the next 3 years, because that's the audience we're serving, is these young people and parents of kids. So you're right, Ruth, it is a lot of work. And I want to tell you, there's been times I thought, what, do you really need this much activity in your life? Some people call it stress, and stress is a 5-letter word to me, even though it's 6 letters. But how do you manage the stress? And I think it's taking the next step and keep on breathing and just listening to the message that you're supposed to do with your short time on life.
So you took it on, you embraced it.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't do the work, you were being, I guess, the work. Tell us the work of the foundation. What is your mission? Is such a try word, but what moves the foundation?
It's a great question. And I want to backtrack a second and kind of tell you a really important aspect of our story. So in 2017, I was celebrating my 25th year in practice. And I came to Kansas City 34 years ago, not knowing anybody. And I actually knew one family from Parsons. And Kansas City's been very, very good to me. This is such a wonderful community. If you give to it, it will give back to you tenfold. And so I was doing a year of well-being. I got inspired and actually told to by my spirit to do a year campaign around well-being. It involved doing wellness fairs. It involved doing free talks. It involved a launch party where we invited 100 community leaders to our center, Your Wellness Connection in Shawnee. And we said, here's what we're going to do this year. We're going to tell the story of well-being in Kansas City. And so then we did a video every single week with Overflow Storytelling Labs and telling the story of whole person health. And coming out of that, that was 2017 in March. And Ruth, what happened is I had this foundation sitting here on the shelf. Once again, my accountant said, are we really going to just hold this sitting here? And I'm like, yes, I don't know why, but my spirit says yes. And it's a little bit emotional, but in April of that year, 2017, I had my first suicide of my personal patients. We hear about suicide and suicide ideation and the mental health crisis we're in. But it was a young boy that I saw almost exactly a month to the day. And wow, that really shifted me. And the night before, I had a call with my long-term writer. And I said, you know what, I think we should launch, I'm going to air quote, launch the foundation in our wrap-up party. So a year of telling a story, kicked it off with 100 community leaders. A year later, in 2018, we did a wrap-up event at Cleveland University. We had 400 community leaders. Half the audience were medical doctors, chiropractors, people in the health and wellness space that I've collected along the way the 25 years prior. And once again, exactly 1 month from the launch of that 1 year campaign, I had my first suicide, 15-year-old boy. Okay. Once again, I saw him a month before. And as a provider, you think about, what did I miss? Could I have done something more? You think about the parents, community. And then literally weeks later, I had my second suicide. I'm not talking about people of our center. We have a big center. I'm talking about my personal patients that I had a relationship with. And then he was a businessman. And I remember the last time I saw him, and I remember the desperation in his eyes, running his business. And I think sometimes we don't think we're worthy of having that type of business. And I've had that experience in my early 30s where I had to go seek help else I was not going to be on the planet in this physical realm. And then again, once again, he took his life. And then a few months later, I had a 67-year-old school teacher, woman, take her life. This is a matter of, now we're at about 120 days. And to top it off, I had a fourth one in their 30s. So within a 12-month period, I had 4 suicides in my personal patients. And I've not had one since, by the way. And and so it's interesting when you think about, was that the universe telling me this is your assignment? This is the next level of your work. So the work is very personal to me. And what we do at the foundation is we try to, number one, give people hope. And so how can we inspire them that, you have to take the breath, because we have the moments of insanity where we think life would be better without us, for other people or for ourselves. And we all have, I believe if you talk to most people, they've had that temporary moment where they thought checking out was the right option. And so what I'm hoping through the work that we're doing at the foundation, through our quadrants of well-being model that we've licensed from Small Changes, which is mechanical, chemical, energetical, psycho-spiritual, that we can help people realize that they have a purpose and they have a value in life. And so once again, it's a very personal mission to me. I get emotional even telling you the story, because I always wonder as a provider, what could I do better? And it's a super awesome responsibility and a joy to care for people when they give you the opportunity to let you guide them, and that we don't take lightly at the foundation.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that was not easy. And it seems that unfortunately we hear more stories, whether you're a health provider or not. It's just circling and it's cycling, and studies and reports are talking about, the number of suicides and the lack of well-being. So with that kind of stage, how can the foundation make that change? What exactly? You mentioned the 4 quadrants. So how does that work?
Well, a couple ways that we've been doing it. So we've officially been rocking and rolling. I want to say during 2019, we got all of our structure set up. We picked our board members at the end of 2018. I told you we launched it in 2018 and kind of started getting all the bylaws. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. You think, I'm just going to get started. Well, there's all the stuff you got to do before you get started. And then kind of started thinking about what's our mission, what's our purpose, and what can we do that's not already being done in the city. I don't believe in duplication. And so that was that 2019 year. And then, as you well know, what happened in 2020. And so we had started supporting some other foundations that are doing great work, but they don't have a well-being component. And so in 2020, a couple of things happened. Cynthia Newsom reached out to me and said, our kids are home. We're going to do our school on Saturday mornings via Zoom. Could we have a 5-minute wellness moment every week? And so our team, some of our board members actually went on, and we have a 52 snackable curriculum. And we did that with the girls. Well, they learned how to breathe. They learned how to do maybe some auricular therapy, or why is it important to ground, or why is it important to put your cell phone up at night? Why is it important to be grateful? So we started using our time and talent in our curriculum to help Awesome Ambitions and young women on the move. And we've done some other work, but the names are escaping me right this minute. I don't know why, but they are. And then what happened, which is really profound, I'll never forget this. I hope I never forget this the rest of my life. A young woman who I met prior to the pandemic, a young woman of color, she'd reached out to me as she came to Kansas City from graduating Mizzou, not KU, by the way, Mizzou. And she, we started building a relationship, because Ruth, like you, I'm a people collector, and I love to figure out how can I be best of service. My love language is service. My practice is service. I'm a servant. That's what I do. And had not talked to her. And then she SOS'd me in June of 2020 and said, she calls me Dr. Robin. Dr. Robin, I don't know what to do. Something's really wrong, and I don't know who to talk to. Can you help me? I said, please come on in, and I will do my best to help you. And I gave her some guidance. And about a month later, she said, my gosh, I'm so much better. People like me don't know about people like you and this whole person health. And I said, And we were hearing the same thing about the disparity with all the COVID treatments, and people that of our color are having a harder time. And so I actually picked up the phone and called my board members and said, okay, there's something we can do right now. And we have a really small budget. We're a small not-for-profit, but we're mighty. And so I said, we have enough money to help some young people through a scholarship program to get some of this care. And so immediately the team leapt in action, formed a scholarship committee led by Alex McAnderson and Haley Prophet and Chelsea Lobb. Those are our kind of three ringleaders, and created a scholarship program for people of 18 to 30. We picked the age 18 so we don't have to worry about HIPAA. And we picked the name 30 because the whole thing is if we're all a pond, we're all our own ecosystem. And some of us are proliferating and we're having babies. And if we could change our pond so that our fish are cleaner, our babies are cleaner, we could start to make generational change. It's going to take 2.5 generations to really get out of the mess we're in society. But we got to get started. We can't wait another half decade to get started for these kids. And so that's what started. And I will be forever so grateful for her having the courage, A, to ask for help, B, that she chose me to help be her guider, her doctor, her guiding post that day. And so now we've just have been finalized our second class of graduates. We had 6 people the first year, 7 people the second year, all of either Hispanic or Black Americans, or that have started to embody this lifestyle that mechanical, chemical, energetical, psycho-spiritual health really matter. Some are parents, some are young parents. We're getting ready to launch our 3rd class, and we're gaining some momentum. We're getting better at it. Ruth, I want to tell you, we're not perfect at it, but we're doing something. And I think that what gets a lot of people stuck is they want to be 10 steps ahead without taking the 9 before. And so that's what we're doing. And we support like Jack and Jill Foundation. We're supporting, Michael Weaver's foundation, just trying to help other people when they say, we're having this conference, but we need somebody to come around well-being. And so we partner up with other not-for-profits to help us both be stronger.
It's amazing work. We're talking with Dr. Michelle Robin, Big Shifts Foundation. Take a swallow, please do. So let's talk quickly about the 4 quadrants so people will understand that and how they can reach you if they want to be part of this.
Great. Thanks for allowing me to share that. So when you think about running a business or running a home, there's different aspects. In business, we would call it operations of how a company runs. And then you have the marketing, and which you're great at is the communications and PR. And then you have the finance. You got to have the money to do the work. And then you have the psycho-spiritual. You got to have the right mindset. And so your body's in the right leadership. So your body's the same way. And we all are our own chief wellness officers, or I like what Barnett Helzberg says, ultimate decision makers of our own lives. And so people always come to me and say, I'm taking these 5 medications. I don't even know why. And it's like medicine is being done to them instead of for them. And so how can you shift that thinking to thinking, okay, I'm in control of my own well-being. How do I get the right guidance, whether it's from my medical doctor, my chiropractor, my massage therapist, acupuncture, counselor, yoga teacher? And so the quadrants really are mechanical, is this physical structure that works because of our nervous system. How do we take care of it? If you've been sitting, if you sit all day, it creates mechanical problems. If you sleep on your stomach, it creates mechanical problems. If you're out running a marathon every single day, it creates mechanical problems because you can overdo things as well as underdo things. And so we teach people some really basic things. What's the right sleep posture? Are you clenching your teeth? Yes, you may unconsciously be clenching your teeth, but what can you do to help minimize the damage? And then you have the chemical aspect, which is kind of that marketing aspect. So you can have a great product and no one knows about it. Or you can have great marketing and not a great product. And so the chemistry is what makes our body work. Our brain works because of chemistry. It's what we put on our body and what we put in our body, whether it's through the vitamins or through the medications or for mostly the food. Food is medicine, right? Hydration. So a couple really tips, if you're listening today, what you could take from this is hydrate before you caffeinate. Okay, that would be a big, chemical tip. Another tip would be chew your food. Those 2 things right there are surprising how many people don't do that. Once again, I'm not saying give up your coffee, hydrate before you caffeinate. And then you have this thing called energy. And in Chinese medicine, which this is based off of, the energy medicine is, when you walk into a room and you meet somebody and you either feel attracted to them or repelled from them, we all have an energy field around us. And sometimes that energy field, the light is dim or the volume is dim. So how can we amplify that without being so loud that we're drowning people out? And that could be through getting an acupuncture treatment. It could be through walking in the grass without shoes on. It could be putting up your cell phone so that you're not connected to that electrical frequency all the time. And of course, the most important aspect, and my favorite aspect, which has saved my life many times through the years, is the psycho-spiritual aspect. And I know the word spiritual or religion can trip some people up. And, I was fortunate enough, I was not raised in religion. I went to church because the neighbors always felt the calling to take me. I didn't really understand why till I got older. And so I call myself a spiritual mutt. And that mindset, you've got to pour in the good thoughts. There's a lot of stuff bombarding us from the outside world. And unfortunately, we let that in before we let the goodness in. And when you have a lot of good thoughts, and I have to do this every day. People say, how do you do it? I said, well, you know what? You should see my life. I went through a prayer ritual this morning, went through an affirmation ritual. I woke up actually writing a talk today. And in the talk I had people standing up and they were saying, I am worthy. I am enough. I am kind. And I thought, well, that's really a weird dream to have last night. So I must have been processing something. But you've got to pour into yourself. So before you will even take time to exercise or time to value putting the right food in or the right people, you've got to pour into yourself that you're worthy and you deserve it. And I believe that every person that's been on the planet right now has a purpose. It's just, can we help them see it? So that's the quadrants of well-being. As you can tell, I love it.
Now I know that you have something big coming up in the fall that you do every year. Talk a little bit about the kindness campaign and why Big Shifts does it.
Yeah, there's a lot of research out right now about the loneliness epidemic, about the narcissistic pandemic, about this mental health crisis we're in. And so a few years ago, one of my clients, Lockton, said, Michelle, what can we do to help shift what's happening? What's the next thing we can do? We've been talking about the building rhythm and resilience and sleep and those things. I said, well, if it was me, I would focus on kindness. And they said, tell me more. And I said, well, first of all, there's a World Kindness Day in November. And we also have a lot of election stuff happening around that time of year. And people are kind of more feisty with each other because we quit listening. And so kindness actually changes the brain. There's a science, it's not all soft skills with kindness. There's some hard stuff with it. And it's about rewiring our brains. So the neurotransmitters that help release the good hormones for us, like the serotonin, the dopamine, get released. And so research shows that by doing acts of kindness, it will change your life. And so with Lockton, we did this 31 days of kindness. And it's a free campaign. Anybody can join us. And then we have some people that have been sponsors that help us underwrite the program. We had Citywide that's helped us do it before. This year, we shifted the model a little bit because we've got, by some of the school districts, they asked us to do some curriculum for kids, certain age groups. As we know that sometimes there's a lot of bullying. And the way to get around bullying is kindness. And so we have other companies like Chicken and Pickle and Garmin and Santa Fe Tow and Snap It IT Solutions that have said, you know what, we'll walk beside you and help you reach more people. We're on a mission to reach 1 million people this year and create a ripple from the heartland, east to west and north to south. You never know what small act will change your life forever. That chiropractor, at the age of 15, Dr. John Lake and his wife, Carol Lakin, they breathed life into this dying soul because I didn't think I was worthy. I still, many days, don't think I'm worthy, but I continue to try to reprogram that wiring that I had from a young child. And so that's what we're doing. And I want every child to have a chance to know they matter.
So how can people engage with that and with the foundation in general?
Well, they can go to bigshifts.org. And they can watch a video about our scholarship kids. That's the video on the front page right now. There'll be links about our kindness campaign coming up. They can follow us on social media, Big Shifts Foundation. Dr. Michelle Robin, we also launch a lot of stuff there because I've just been around a little longer. My following is a little bit bigger. They could just, I'm easy to find. They can link in with me. They could also just take one thing, even if they don't want to do a kindness campaign, they don't want one more email in their inbox. They can just hydrate before they caffeinate. When you walk out of your house today, walk out like you're a shepherd and you're taking light out to the world, and smile at the car next to you at the stoplight, or smile at the person walking their dog, and look in the mirror and smile at yourself. So even if you feel like you don't have the bandwidth to engage right now, you can do some of those small things. The other thing is, if you have a company and you want to sign up, my team has made it so easy. My back-end team, I've got to give a shout out to them. They are absolutely amazing. Somebody says, you know what, we're having trouble with whitelist. They try to figure that out. They'll say, how can I sign up, 500 employees without each one having to sign up? They have figured that out. We will do we do kindness interviews. We'll do Facebook Lives around it. And every day they get a 31-day, they get an act of goodness or act of kindness they can participate. It's to themselves, for the community, for their pets, for their neighbors, for their coworkers, and for humanity.
Where do you see, or what do you envision 5-10 years down the road for the foundation?
Oh my gosh, that is a great question. And to our listeners, you did not send me any questions, so I did not know what was coming. So I'm glad you're reading my heart. In my Pollyanna magical world, if I was queen of the world, I envision a day when we're not talking about bullying. I envision a day, this is probably 2.5 decades away. Hopefully I'm still alive to see that, where we're not talking about type 2 diabetes as much, or dementia, which is a horrific disease that's on the rise right now. Because our kids say, you know what, I have anxiety, but you know what, I am the ultimate decision maker. I've got to figure out, why am I having anxiety? Well, you know what, I'm not eating breakfast. I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm tuning into social media before I'm tuning into my spirit. I envision a day that we are upstream and we are finding out why people are falling in, instead of trying to pull people out of the river. That's what I hope will happen, because people pulled me out of the river. And I've fallen in the river and slipped a few times through the years. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that. But I get out of the river faster now. I start to realize, okay, wait, I'm in the river. I'm in the river because I'm having poor thinking. I'm in the river because I'm, drinking too much sugar or alcohol, or I'm having too many French fries, which is my French Fry Friday, or I'm having too much sugar. It's okay to, if that's why you enjoy life, to have that happen. But if you're doing stuff like that every single day, you're debiting your account. So Ruth, what I imagine is that we say, you know what, wait a minute, you're about ready to fall in the river. Here's some tools for you. And they don't have to be that hard, and they don't have to be that expensive. There's a quote by Confucius that says, life is really simple. Why do we make it complicated?
We seem to do that a lot.
We do. And so I invite our listeners today to think about how you're complicating your life. I mentioned earlier that I think that stress is the 5-letter F word. And in my life, what I think about is what's stressing me out today. Am I overbooking myself, overcommitting? Am I listening to the negative few instead of the positive many? Am I dialing in because of the stress? I'm eating my potato chips when I get home instead of my carrots, things like that. So it is amazing how we make it so complicated. And I wish I would have known this 25 years ago to save myself a lot of trouble. But you know what? I know it now, and I'm going to take it to as many people as I can until the day I die.
Well, it's noble work. It's positive work. You're not the only Pollyanna in the room. We can go have a Pollyanna coffee. It's Big Shifts Foundation. Check it out, bigshifts.org. And you can go many places from there, having been on there. And Dr. Michelle, we thank you so much for sharing this journey, sharing what you're doing. And we wish you the best of luck, because we'll all be better for it.
Thanks, Ruth. And thank you to Casey Cares and the work you're doing. And just to once again, to our listeners today, just take the small step, whatever's right for you. And if you listen, you'll know exactly what it is. And Ruth, I'm sending you and our listeners, I always like to use hearts. And we have one of the hearts at our center at Your Wellness Connection. And I'm just sending you really big heart-to-heart hugs.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us on KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, and this segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. To be a guest on KC Cares or Underwriting Opportunities, check out our website, kccaresonline.org. Spread the love. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio and on Instagram at KC Cares Online. And you can catch us on Saturday mornings on ESPN 1510 AM and 94.5 FM at 8 a.m. Thank you for joining us on KC Cares.